You want me to put that on my todger?
This one's wife, as ever, is dead. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We are gathered here today to remember the life and time of As Ever. As Ever entered the world on April the 2nd, 2025. Its life was difficult. It faced ridicule from the moment it appeared, its entry into the world being announced amongst foliage in a garden in California as the mother of, as ever, this one's wife, lurked as if she was seeking a place to urinate. Some would say that that was not an auspicious entry into the world for As Ever. As Ever's life was short-lived, coming to an end on the 27th of May 2025, less than 2 months old. It was a life that was marked by raspberry sludge, dried gerbil food, honey that was never available, and products that were never sold. It flourished briefly for a few sweet moments as a consequence of the distribution of grift boxes. It appeared that its existence was almost like that of a mayfly. For its products, such as they were sold out in a mere 45 minutes. The newsletters that were promised in relation to this lifestyle brand never manifested. So much promise, yet so little delivered. It is a sad testament to As Ever that it was never properly looked after, that it was never nourished, never thought about in an appropriate fashion, but was simply a product of vanity. A project that was there to satisfy the whims of a narcissist. And now, as we are drawn together, all three of us, we commit As Ever to the ground, to be buried in a shallow grave next to American Riviera orchard. May they both rest in peace. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and we've just listened there to the short service accompanying the death of As Ever. How is it dead? Well, as Elizabeth Hay in the Daily Mail reports, this one's wife has stated she might never restock her jam in an interview with a US business magazine, which said she was planning to step back to assess her As Ever brand. Now, you don't need to step back to assess this brand. It's really simple. It's shite. If you were running a brand properly and you'd got international publicity, a lot of it free by virtue of the fact that people have a fascination in the car crash, the train wreck that is your life, and if you truly sold out of product within 45 minutes, you would be pulling out all the stops to restock. Why? Because there would be money to be made. You would want to strike while the iron is hot. You would want to make hay while the sun shines. A magnificent opportunity, indeed, to enable this one's wife to not only assert control through her product, draw fuel by way of the response, and to gain that all-important residual benefit of money. And yet it never happened. It is baloney to state that she's planning to step back to assess her As Ever brand. Basically, she has no interest in it because she suddenly realised that actually running a proper business is hard work, and she's not in the business of hard work, not at all. As I have explained some time ago, what her intention was basically to do this. I'm this one's wife. Everybody loves me. I've come up with a brand. Someone come and buy it from me for hundreds of millions of dollars and I'll front it for you. And nobody came. Nobody came because it's not unique. Nobody came because it isn't novel. Nobody came because she's unpopular. Nobody came because it's basically a shit concept. But that's what she wanted to do. She never had any intention of running a proper lifestyle brand. Once again, her narcissism wanted the easy win, the shortcut. Create the idea and sell the idea. Notice how she never talks about herself really as being a business owner or an entrepreneur. She always talks about being a founder, as if that's something, and she outs herself in a way by way of issuing this comment, because it's almost as if, right, so what do? Just come up with ideas and then you don't see them through, that you do the early stages and nothing more. Now, in some instances, if that was what you were, that you were someone that said, look, I've got tons of ideas and I'll provide you with the ideas. I'm a brilliant individual that can see gaps in the market, but I'm not about the delivery or the logistics. I see the opportunity. I'm brilliant at brainstorming ideas. So what I'll do is I'll come up with a concept for you. I'll talk about how it can be done. I'll explain how it fits into the market. You can buy that from me and then off you go and you can set up all of the logistics and infrastructure associated with it, then fair enough. But of course, she's never held herself out as doing that. But she repeatedly talks about being a founder because in her mind, the most important thing that she's done is start this business, which isn't a business. As I've explained to you previously, I don't believe that anything was actually ever sold to anybody. Yes, people placed orders and they're still waiting for their money back, but I don't think anybody was actually sold anything. Anybody that received the products did so as a consequence of either grift boxes or PR delivery to drum up interest in it, because it was never about the actual delivery of products to normal people. It was all about gaining publicity. Gaining publicity so that she could turn and say to people, look how many people are interested in this product, this lifestyle brand. I've done a trial run in effect, and look at the reactions. Sold out in 45 minutes. Other famous people talking about it. Look at the profile raising. Now make me an offer. And it never came. In an interview given to coincide with the final episode of Confessions of a Female Founder, the Fast Company said the Duchess of Sussex wants to step back, gather data from the launch, and figure out exactly what As Ever could be. Now, as I understand it, the Fast Company does have some degree of credibility amongst startups. It seems a bit of a Bible for it. But hilariously, she wants to figure out exactly what As Ever could be. Now, I might just be grasping at straws here, but I would have thought that if you're going to create a business, you would have figured out beforehand what it's going to be, before you started advertising it, before you started apparently selling things, before you started to get people to highlight your products. But of course, what's actually happened is this. This one's wife never had any intention of As Ever being a lifestyle brand that she would run. It's too much like hard work. She wanted somebody to come along and buy the concept off her. Nobody has. That's a threat to her control. And in order to try and save face, what she's now doing is saying, I'm going to step back, gather some data and figure out exactly what it could be. In other words, I'm not going to do anything with it. My original idea has failed. This one's wife then revealed the surprising turn As Ever could take, hinting at a future step into the fashion industry. Ha! This comes from a woman whose clothes don't fit her, who perpetually wears beige, often looks like she's in need of an iron. A woman who wants people to come along and think that she's some kind of fashion icon. Apparently this one's wife said, the category of fashion is something I will explore at a later date because I do think that's an interesting space for me, she said, in her usual meaningless word salad. She wants to move into fashion. But hang on a second. Wasn't she going to be a politician, but that came to nothing? And then she was going to do philanthropy, but that came to nothing. And she was going to engage in charitable works, but that came to nothing. And she was going to be a writer, but that came to nothing. And then she was going to be involved in content creation, but that came to nothing. And then she was going to be a producer, and that came to nothing. And she was going to do the 40 by 40, but that came to nothing. And then she set up a lifestyle brand called American Riviera Orchard, which went nowhere. And then another one called As Ever, which oddly enough has come to nothing. Once again, driven by her narcissism, she will now move on to the next thing. Hilariously, you'll recall she said about how you've got to give it 5 years rather than 5 minutes, or words to that effect. And once again, she demonstrates what a hypocrite and contrarian she is, because she doesn't give anything 5 minutes. The reason this happens is because she expects things as a consequence of her magical thinking to fall into place straight away. She expects, and it's truly deluded, but this is what goes on in her mind, believe me. She thinks that she just has to turn up and it'll happen. In the way that she wandered around in Australia saying, I can't believe I'm not being paid for this. She expects that when she does something, that immediately people will love it, people want to buy it, people will chuck money at her because it's her. She can't see that she's boring and talent-free and charisma-free. Her narcissism blinds her to this. And thus, when one thing doesn't work, rather than persevere at it, because if she has no sense of accountability, the narcissism just simply says, go on to this one instead. So she does. And because she's got no talent, and because she's got no charisma, and because she's not likable, and because she has no novel ideas, that fails. So then she moves on to the next thing, and on to the next thing. In the way that she uses relationships, she uses concepts similarly. She will never see anything through, because her brand of narcissism doesn't allow her to do so. And now, as I predicted, As Ever has died. I would say sooner than I thought it would do. And the next thing is that she's going to reappear in respect of Fashion. Addressing her first online shop, this one's wife said Netflix agreed that rather than market her products under their brand, it would make sense for her to have her own store. In other words, Netflix has thought, you can fuck this Sky High if you think we're hanging around and being associated with you. Netflix already has its own online shop selling brand-related products such as Stranger Things bomber jackets and Squid Game merchandise. Why? Because those are both hugely successful series which people enjoyed, unlike with Love, Meghan. In the interview, the Duchess also revealed she wouldn't know what to call herself if she had to write a resume. Well, I can help you with that. Abject failure is what you should place upon it. But again, she said, if I had to write a resume, I don't know what I would call myself. I think it speaks to this chapter many of us find ourselves in, where none of us are one note. But I believe all the notes I am playing are part of the same song. What a load of fucking word salady nonsense. That's the sound of the song that this one's wife would be playing. All of the notes that she's playing, utterly discordant all over the place and unpleasant to hear from. Accordingly, As Ever is dead. This one's wife has given up already, as I stated, sooner than I thought it would be, but no surprise that she's fucked this up, because she fucks up everything, because she's completely useless, and owing to her narcissism, it means that she just moves on to the next thing, walks away from the disaster that it is. You will find there won't be any return on a seasonal basis, because she'll have lost interest, because it's too difficult for her and doesn't provide her with what she requires. Next, she's going to try the Fashion, and that will fail also. But at least it'll provide us with some more entertainment, as this haphazard and useless narcissist continues to try and convince the world that she's some kind of business mastermind. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.